if you're trying to create music that sounds radio ready, that sounds modern, that sounds like a great pop song that you hear on the radio today, but you're struggling, I got something today that might help you. I'm going to show you how I create pop songs in Logic Pro, in the DAW that I'm using a lot to produce my music. I'm going to show you how I produced and mixed my track MTV from my singer-songwriter project called Benjamin Theodore. I'm going to explain to you how I recorded everything, why I recorded certain parts like vocal doubles in a certain way, how you can create a wide sounding vocals, how you can process them. I'm going to explain to you how I produce the beats that you're hearing in this song, how I use samples, how I put this all together using electric guitars, acoustic guitars, how I use mix bus processing. So this is going to be a action-packed tutorial for you that you don't want to miss, so keep watching. Alright, before we dive into the song, I have something for you that you might like. I'm offering free feedback calls. You can book schedule an appointment with me where we can meet over Zoom and where we can discuss your music and what you need help with. So you might need help with getting your song to sound polished and radio ready, as I'd like to call it, or you might need some help creating a promotion strategy. Well, I got you covered. I'm offering some free feedback calls. These are limited in availability, so if you would like to talk to me, to have a little bit of a chat about your music and to see how you can take it to the next level, book an appointment with me by clicking on the link below. You can schedule it for free whenever it suits you. Alright, so that's something that I would like to give you as a thank you already for watching this video. So before we dive into the tutorial and I'm going to spill the beans on how I produced it, I'm going to play a little bit of the music video for you so you can get an idea of not only how the song sounds, but also how it looks like on music video, because that's incredibly important to put video to music nowadays, as you probably might know. And if not, here you go. So without further ado, this is MTV from my singer-songwriter project Benjamin Theodore.
So I said, son, when I was young, about your age, I dreamt of being on stage. I looked up to my heroes, I saw them doing what I do now. Now we're looking at our phones all the time. I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar, see music, television. I wanna go back to the way things were, hear music that I'm used to. All the songs that they play on the radio are not like the ones that I used to know. Kick, snare, and bass guitar, see music, television, where music is live. I come alive. So every day I couldn't wait to watch and see what's on MTV. My favorite music was being played. It made my worries go far away. But now we're stuck inside the metaverse. What the fuck? I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar, see music, television. I wanna go back to the way things were, hear music that I'm used to. All the songs that they play on the radio are not like the ones that I used to know. Kick, snare, and bass guitar, see music, television, where music is live. I come alive. When music is live, I come alive. Play me a song on the radio, just like the ones that I used to know. Play a song on the radio, just like the ones that I used to know. Play me a song on the radio, just like the ones that I used to know. Play me a song on the radio, just like the ones that I used to know. I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar. See music, television. I wanna go back to the way things were. Hear music that I'm used to. All the songs that they play on the radio are not like the ones that I used to know. Kick, snare, and bass guitar. See music, television, when music is live. I come alive when music is live. I come alive.
All right, so that's MTV by Benjamin Theodore. That's me. That's my alias. You can check it out on Spotify, and if you appreciate the music I make, it would be highly appreciated if you would follow me on Spotify. You can just click on a link down in the description, click on follow, and also add this track to your library. And if you have a playlist or whatsoever that fits where this song could fit, I would really love it if you could add that to your playlist. Okay, so thank you very much. So let's dive into the tutorial. Well, this is the track in Logic Pro. I recorded and produced and mixed this over several months, and I worked in a couple of different studios to make all this. It started in my home studio in Zutphen in the Netherlands, where I had this idea. It started out, funny enough, as a country song, because the lyrics are quite ironic, because the whole song actually is quite ironic, because I sing about how I miss the music from back in the day when we were watching MTV, and I grew up on MTV. So when I got home, I turned on the TV, watched MTV, and really enjoyed the music that they were making back in the day, where there still was a lot of music that the people that were playing on it were using real instruments. There was a lot more craftsmanship involved, as you might call it, and I'm feeling a little bit out of touch sometimes with the music nowadays. But the ironic thing is that I produced this intentionally as a modern pop song that you might hear on the radio today. So that's the ironic thing, and that irony is used a lot in country music. So it started out as sort of like a country song because I was listening to a lot of country pop a few years back, and I had this idea of kick, snare, bass guitar, music, television, but I couldn't quite figure out where to take it from there. So eventually it turned out into this sort of like, inspired by an Ed Sheeran pop song kind of song. And it turned into something bigger. And it started with this guitar. It's called Guitaros, probably because I was in Mexico when I was finishing this mix. So this is just an acoustic guitar recorded through, I think, through my Slate digital mic. Yeah, I'm using, that's a modeling mic. I'm using the FG800M mic model, the Sony C800 mic model, using a little bit of Neve preamp color, EQing it with the Neve, just some compression, 1176 style compressor for the fast energy, and then a Slate, like an LA2A compressor to round it all up. I wanted this to sound almost like a synthesizer, so there's also some NS1 noise reduction. Oh, that's not actually doing anything. There's some de-essing involved. On the more percussive parts of the recording, it's doing some reduction. Then I added a little radiator, and this adds some distortion without. It's incredibly clean sounding. And this adds a little bit of grit. And then I'm putting it through the DAW chorus, and this is actually a free plugin that you can download. I love this very much. I saw Charlie Puth using this, and this album, the Eternal Optimist, where MTV is going to be on, is highly inspired by Charlie Puth. So I infused this with a lot of production techniques that I saw Charlie Puth using. This is one of them. And as I mentioned, I wanted this guitar to sound a little bit like a synthesizer, so that's where the chorus plays a part. It creates the stereo field, makes it a little wider, so without, it's really narrow. But with this, it gives it this stereo image which carries the song a lot more. And there's also another guitar part that I recorded on a separate track, which plays in the choruses, because that's a strumming part. It doesn't have the chorus effect on it. It's probably the same processing. Yeah, oh, it's actually a different mic model, which is lovely, because as you might have noticed in the track, there's a lot of contrast, which I love to add in music. There's this verse section, not that one, this one, which is really small, and then we're transitioning into the chorus, and this explodes. This is really wide. There's a lot of contrast, so I'm trying to enhance contrast in every way that I can. So that's an acoustic guitar. Then let's start by going to the drum parts that I recorded. And these, let's see, these are all like drum or rhythm parts, this section here. I wanna hear kick, snare. Haha. The way things were here, music that I'm used to, all the songs that and now that I play this back, I remember that I started this song by recording the acoustic guitar and then adding the beat on top of that. The rest didn't exist at that time. So the entire production, as far as instruments go, is built upon this drum beat. So this was really important to get this right and to get this to have a certain amount of weight and a certain amount of impact. And I approach this by layering some stuff. So it starts with this kick. And this kick sound is used all over my album. It's really a constant. And then there's this part, which is actually a snare. I don't know why it's labeled classic hip hop, the same as the kick, but it's a snare. And then there's another snare, which is more fat sounding. And this first one is more bright. And then there's another snare. It's this one. There's this crazy reverb happening, and all together this is the snare sound. So that's what you can get by layering snare sounds or kick sounds or what have you. You can create a bigger, fatter sounding snare than if you were only using one layer. So I complement each snare sounds by adding a fatter sound or a wider sound, and then you can create this really unique snare sound. So this might be helpful to you. So that's the kick and the snare. And then later on in the post-chorus, there's this snare part. Let's see. Boom! It's really big. So all together. So there in that section, that's this section. this one. And there's even a clap. This one. So altogether, with all the drum sounds, it sounds like this. Some hi-hats are happening as well. That's a loop. Yeah, I love this drum sound. It's really big sounding. As far as processing goes, let's see, I added some DBX 160 on the first kick drum. It's the only kick drum, by the way, just to give it some snap. It's barely mixed in. Or it's not even mixed in. I don't know why it's on there. Saturation, added some saturation. Added a little Valhalla on some snare sounds. And all these tiny bits of processing and these tiny bits of reverb or saturation add up to create a bigger sound. So that's really what's happening here. I'm not going to go over every single plugin. If you have any questions about what you see me doing here, please let me know by leaving a comment down below, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. So that's the drum sounds. I'm not going to stay there too long because we have a lot more to cover. There are some effects that I added later, like this riser, which ends up in these crashes. Wait. These ones. It's actually a funny crash with some sort of delay. And I think I found all these loops on BandLab. BandLab has a lot of free loops, which are royalty free and sound quite good, actually. I didn't use Splice or something like that. I didn't need to. I just found it on a BandLab and they work great. So there you go. You can get free sounding free samples that sound good. Excuse me, on BandLab. Then there is this tambourine. Now, if you followed me for a longer period of time, you might have seen me using tambourines quite a lot, especially in chorus sections. And this is for an important reason, and that is because they add high-end energy. And high-end energy can really amplify the chorus, especially. Of course, you can use it in verses as well, but if you're using this only in choruses, opens up the high end in the chorus, and that gives a lot of energy. Listen to it, to the entire chorus without the tambourine first. And now with the tambourine. It's subtle, but it definitely adds some energy. Now let's go to the guitar parts, because there's something funny that I've used in this song. Let's listen to it first and I'll explain what I've been doing. So I wanted these guitar parts to sound really big, but also like it's one instrument, like it's one wall of guitars that doesn't really sound super organic, but also doesn't sound mechanic as well, if you catch my drift. So I needed to have some human touch, but also to make it sound really tight and processed and in your face. So that's what I tried to do with this stuff. I used the Strat on the first part. It's really bright. So on its own, that would never work. That would never be enough. So I added a tele on the right. It's a little fatter. It's a little bit more low end. So both those guitars, they actually complement each other and they make it sound really big. But then I added something else that I've seen, again, Charlie Puth use as well. And that I added some MIDI guitar sounds, which I've never done before. And this definitely isn't the only guitar sound you're hearing, but it sort of adds to the mechanic part of the guitar section. And they sound like this. Terrible. They're like really plucky, blah, 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 blah. But with the real electric guitars, it sounds like this. Without the MIDI sounds. With. It adds some consistency, some tightness that you otherwise wouldn't really have with just the electric guitars. So that's kind of a funny thing that I've never done before, but if you like it, you can try it as well. Just double your guitar parts with some MIDI guitars, and I'm using the EX24 sampler in Logic. Just the standard stuff, and I added a guitar simulator. This the Vox AC30 by Nembrini. So that adds to the realness of the sound. All right, so that's kind of the band section. Let's go to the vocals, because as you can see, there are a lot of them happening. These are all vocal parts. So it starts with the verse vocal. I have a couple of tracks. This one.
So I said, son, when I was young, about your age, I dreamt of being on stage.
And how you produce and mix your vocals can make or break your track. So it's incredibly important that you get this right. And it starts by how you sing it. This may sound obvious, but as producers, we are leaning a lot on processing and on auto-tune and what have you to get things right. But I really took the time to record this right and to get it to sound as close as possible to being perfect, both timing wise as far as, and also pitch wise, so that the pitch and the timing sounded as good as possible before I started using autotune and manual pitch correction. So, and this comes to play especially in the chorus section where there are multiple vocal parts happening and they all need to be really tight.
TikTok. I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar, see music, television. I wanna go back to the way things were, hear music that I'm used to.
This vocal part is really, it's quite fast and there's a lot of rhythm going on, so I needed to get this really tight. And of course, you can also always flex audio this to sound perfect and to sound really tight, but in this case I didn't use a lot of time correction because I wanted to sound human again. You can use vocal line or you can use some tricks in Logic to the groove track to get it to sound perfect. That's something for another video. In this case, what I did, I used one vocal part in the middle, this one.
I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar, see.
Then doubled that and panned those parts hard left, hard right.
I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar, see music, television.
And then doubled those parts again. And this is something that I learned from Charlie Puth as well. So thank you, Charlie Puth, if you're watching this video.
I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar, see music, television.
And this is really the secret to getting those pop radio sounding vocals that you hear on chart-topping music, on all the popular music that you hear nowadays on the radio. It's this doubling that's happening. So there's one part in the middle that's like the lead, and then you double those 4 times actually. Pan 2 hard left, 2 hard right. And that's when you get this sound. And then when you do backing vocals, like harmonies, you record them 4 times as well. So now you get this.
Where music is live. Where music is
Let's play this part.
All the songs that they play on the radio are not like the ones that I used to know. Kick, snare, and bass guitar. See music, television, where music is live.
Okay, so that's how you record vocals. So that's where it starts, by paying a lot of attention to how you sing it, how you record it, how you use the timing. And that's when you get a sound like this. And then you can enhance that by adding autotune. And on this particular track, I used autotune first. So this is the Metatune by Slate Digital. You can copy those settings if you like. And I didn't actually use a lot of manual tuning. That's something that I normally do. But in this case, because I paid a lot of attention to how I recorded it, I didn't need it. So it's just autotune. Then there's the mic model, the U47 Neumann mic model that I used on my Slate Digital mic. A little Neve preamp color action going on. Then the SSL channel that I used on my vocals, and I always use on a setting similar to this. So I rolled off a little low end, 100 hertz, then added a little top end on 8 kilohertz, 4 dB, and that's when you get this sound. Then I added the CLA 76. This is my go-to compressor for vocals. If you're not happy with your vocal sound, I highly recommend you trying this compressor. This is on, I think, 90% of modern pop songs that you hear on Spotify or on the radio. It's when you put this on your vocals, it immediately sounds like, oh yeah, now it sounds professional. Now it sounds like the songs you hear on the radio. So this is highly recommended. If you haven't used it, just use it on this setting. I think this is the standard setting or similar to the standard setting. Then I use a second compressor, similar to what I've done on the acoustic guitar, which I showed you in the beginning. This is a slower optical compressor, which adds more warmth and sort of round, make the sound more round sounding, in lack of a better term. Then I use some de-essing.
I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar. See music,
because if you turn the song up really loudly on your speakers or in the car or whatever, you don't want it to be harsh. So with the de-esser, you can sort of tame those S's, of course. And then there's the RVox that's only being used for the gate in this particular instance. Normally, I sort of bump the vocal up a little bit by using this compressor. It sort of puts it forward. It's really hard to explain. You have to hear what it's doing. But I use this gate as well because it's tailored to vocals, and it cleans everything up really good, especially when you use a lot of compression. So that's also a trick that I use a lot, and that saves you hours of editing your vocals. And then finally, this is something I added later. I added another 1176 compressor because at the time I just started using Universal Audio plugins, and I really wanted to add this sound as well.
I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar. See music, television.
It's really bumping the vocal up. It's really pushing it forward, and that's what I wanted to do. So there's a lot of compression happening, as you might expect on a pop song, but that is how you get this sound. So let me just quickly disable all these plugins, and this is how it sounds without anything. So this is just a dry recording.
I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar. See music, television.
So it's not really perfectly in tune as well. Listen, I'm not the world's best singer, and I'm not trying to be. I'm just a singer-songwriter who loves to make music, and I use all the available tools that are available to me to make my vocals sound amazing. So that's why I use autotune, so no shame in that. And this is how it sounds with everything on.
I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar, see music, television. I wanna.
So that's how you get those radio-ready sounding vocals. Okay. Now, then I added some effects, bus 3, 4, and 5. And those are Valhalla, Vintage Verb, just on a smooth plate setting. A stereo delay, H delay, it's ping pong. Yes, it's set to the tempo. And bus 5 is the sort of H3000 stereo widener effect. I'm using this particular plugin because I have a Soundtoys and the Microshift plugin, but that didn't work on this version of Logic, so that's why I used a different one. And that's all the effects that I'm using on the vocals. But in the modulation, there's actually like a pitch, no, a key change happening, which I will play to you. And that's happening over here. I recorded those vocals on separate tracks.
I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar, see music, television. I wanna go back to the.
I added another effect, bus 7, and that's the UADX Galaxy. That's adding a little bit of echo and reverb to sort of differentiate from the first vocal parts. So it's all about contrast, adding contrast in your recording, in your songwriting, in your production, in your mix, adding contrast, adding dynamics, etc., etc. So that's how you get that sound. And I'm going to finish this up. So we're going to the mix bus processing. And there's also a lot of things happening. There are some plugins disabled. And basically, on this entire record, the entire album, The Eternal Optimist, that will be released in January, somewhere in January 2024, I'm using this MoTT plugin as the first instance on my mix bus. And this is something that I've never done before, but I liked the sounds. So this is something that I experimented with. And it's on a modern pop mix setting, and I'm only adding 31% of the plugin.
I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar, see music, television. I wanna go.
And what this is a multi-band compressor and expander. So I think this really adds to the sort of, again, this radio-ready sound that I like. And it makes it a little bit more compact, adds some energy. So without sounds like this.
I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar, see
Gain staging is messed up when I disable it, but with.
I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar, see music.
So that's what's going on. Then I add the virtual mix bus, which adds a little bit of SSL color, a little bit of drive.
I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar, see music, television.
That does a couple of things. It adds a little drive, a little color, a little compression. It widens the stereo image a bit. It adds a little EQ. So all of those things that you like about driving a mix bus, driving like an analog console, you can emulate that with this plugin. Then I run everything to a Pultec, adding a little bit of 30 hertz, attenuating a bit as well. You can do the Pultec trick. This is something for another video as well. And then I'm adding a little bit of high end on 4K. Then we go through the VBC rack, virtual bus compressors. I'm using all three. Let's see.
I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar, see music, television. I wanna go back.
Just a little bit on the what's this called? The FG Mu, MU, like the very Mu compressor. It adds a little grit, a little color, which I love. This compressor, it's like the Focusrite Red compressor. It's not doing a lot. And this is an SSL compressor, this one down here. And I'm compressing just a little bit on 30 milliseconds using an auto release on a 1 to 1.5 ratio. I'm not using the high pass filter, so this is sort of gluing everything together.
I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar,
without
music, television. I wanna go back to the way things were. Hear music that
It makes it sound a lot more forward as well. Add some high end. Then I'm adding the virtual tape machine.
I wanna hear kick, snare, and bass guitar. See music,
with that.
Television. I wanna go back to the way things
a lot louder.
Music that I'm used to.
This is adding compression, energy, low ends, etc., etc. It's doing a lot. So it's really putting everything together. Then I'm enhancing the high end with the Fresh Air plugin. Just adding 25% of mid and high air.
I wanna hear kick, snare,
with that.
Bass guitar, see music, television. I wanna go back to.
So this really freshens things up, pun intended. And then we go into the API 2500, one of my favorite bus compressors, especially for pop music. So I'm using this on the 30 millisecond attack setting, a ratio of 1.5, fast release. And then with the tone section here, you can do a lot. You can play with it. You can set the knee setting or the detector, the thrust detector to soft and normal, or make it loud. And that's it does a lot with the transients of the song. So this is how I use it for this particular setting. And then when you engage the makeup gain, the manual makeup gain, this is where the magic is with this plugin, along with the tone section. You can add some gain, but it's not just gain. It sort of functions as, I think, like a limiter or a clipper or something like that. It adds a lot of color, which really put the song together. I was struggling to finish the mixes for my album, and then I added this compressor to all 11 of the mixes, and then I was okay. Yeah, now it's finished. This is the secret sauce that needs to be applied to these mixes to be finished. So that's the mix bus processing. So I know there's still a lot more to be unpacked about this song, but I think we've covered enough for this video. It's been a long tutorial, and I hope you learned something today. So my question for you is, what is your biggest takeaway from this episode? Is it how to process vocals? Is it how I use those doubling techniques with the vocals? Is it how to layer snare sounds to create a bigger sound, or something entirely different? Please let me know by leaving a comment. So what is your biggest takeaway from this video? Leave a comment down below. So if you like what I do, consider subscribing to my email list. You can do that by clicking the link down below, or by going to nextlevelproducer.nl, and you can also schedule a free feedback call with me over there if you want to take your music to the next level. I can listen to your music, I can give you some feedback on how to improve it, and we can talk about promotion, mixing, or whatever you like. So schedule your free feedback call by going to nextlevelproducer.nl or by clicking the link down below. And also, if you enjoyed this track, this song that I showed you and played for you today, please follow me on Spotify. My artist name is Benjamin Theodore. I'm releasing a lot of new music, and my album is coming as well. So give it a follow, give it a like, and I'll see you soon. Thank you so much for watching. I already asked a lot of you, but if you like this video as well, you can also subscribe to my YouTube channel. So I have a lot of homework for you to do. So go to nextlevelproducer.nl, follow me on Spotify, and add this song to your library, and also subscribe to this YouTube channel and give it a thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you really soon. Bye.